that. I know that.
You must have done so many webinars, Bharat Bhai. So.
That's right. I can also turn the other way around. That will reduce the light, but angle will not come efficiently.
No, I think this is okay. If it is going to go over in 10 minutes,
Yeah,
I will. Before the program starts, I will introduce Dr. R.C. Shah, Ramesh Bhai. You can see him, and he is also a very extremely good in investments and expert in that, and experience in that. And Dr. Preetham Samant is the president of our association, so he is going to welcome formally just for a minute or so.
So I am a student of both the great personalities here. I look forward to both of them.
Yeah. Kulin Bhai is an institution by himself.
Absolutely.
No, we still remain students for everything in life, and
that in every walk of life, every learning is in a quest in seeking that studentship.
Yes, and by the time we realize that we need to know so many things, our half of the life is gone. And, so it's only, I always say, only one life and too many things to do.
Too many things to do. So, like I'm very fond of traveling and seeing many countries and places. And then you feel there are so many things to be seen, so many places to be checked out, and there is only one life.
Right, absolutely. RC is silent, RC. Bharat Bhai, Saturdays are off, ne? I'm to generally.
I'm Saturday, Sunday in financial markets are off days. I used to go for many years on Saturday as well. For last few years, I've as far as possible, I prefer not to work Saturday.
Now you have many people working under you also now. So
yeah.
Yes. So more so, you are talking to doctors. My doctors are. It is nobody else can do the work what you can do.
There is no substitutability. There is no substitutability.
Yeah. Navneet can start. If Navneet, can you hear?
One minute, sir.
Just wait, sir. 1 minute. Yeah.
Okay.
Navneet is going to keep a record of this, no?
Yes, I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that recording Navneet will require, and we'll have to send to Bharat Bhai also.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Kulin bhai, while recording is going on, I'll take my phone a little away so that I can connect with the charging source, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, only for those few minutes. As soon as...
Sir, it's live now. Yeah, you can start, sir.
Okay. Good evening, friends. I welcome you all to yet another edition of BOA webinars. And today we again have a very novel topic, and that is on the finance aspect. And it is very aptly named. Today's webinar is called the ABC of Finance, where A stands for all you wanted to know. B stands for the basics of finance, because I think we all doctors lack in basics of finance. And C is come and see the experts. And we have none other than an expert with us, Mr. Bharat Shah ji. Welcome, sir. Shortly, he will be introduced by none other than our own stalwart and mentor and guide to me, Dr. Kulin Kothari sir. And we have Dr. R.C. Shah with us also. I would like to express my gratitude to Dr. Kulin Kothari sir for having conceived and planned this webinar for today. I would also like to thank Navneet Kumarji and Ashok Kumarji from Microlabs and the Microlab team for having given the technical support for today's webinar. And just a quick half a minute I will take. I always tell my peers that we in second MBBS, I used to ask my friends why this forensic medicine we have, and then later on I realized how important it was to know the medico-legal aspects of medicine. So I always wonder why, like forensic medicine, why don't we have a subject called as medico-economics? We should be taught, we should be having a subject, something like medico-economics, where we are taught, and prepared about how to manage our economics, our finances, when we go out in life after our student years and start our practices or join institutions. So this webinar will guide us hopefully to make our understanding about economics and finance better. So I'm handing over the mic to Dr. Kulin sir. He will be guiding us through today's proceedings. Dr. Kulin Kothari sir, please, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. President, Dr. Pritam Saman. Welcome friends, and a special welcome to our guest speaker, Bharat Bhai. This evening, everybody is looking forward, Bharat Bhai, for your this address to all of us. Friends, our profession is very unique, and it is a unique combination of a great human service on one side, and all of us make reasonable, if not too much of money in our lives. Our career starts around the age of 30, and it goes on till 60 plus, 65, 70, on an average for 35, 40 years. Most of the time we keep on focusing on updating our knowledge and skill in ophthalmology and our profession. But very rarely we think about the other also equally important aspects of life, which is when we make some amount of money or reasonable amount of money, how do we manage this money so that later on in our life, either retired life or later on for our family and our children, we can do something for them also, for ourselves as well as for them. And this webinar probably is a little good byproduct of lockdown, where some of our friends, Dr. Arsisa, who is our co-moderator today, and Jignesh from Pune and some other friends, they started a small WhatsApp group just about 3 weeks or 4 weeks back. And this is an offshoot of those WhatsApp group and discussions on that. And I'm very, very happy that today we are starting with one of the most prominent personalities in this financial fields. Mr. Bharat Shah is an executive director of ASK Group and one of the most respected persons in this financial industry. He is academically gold medalist in various things, in finance, in chartered accountancy, cost accountancy, as well as in his he's MBA from IIM Kolkata. But whenever I talk about him to anybody, people look at him at a very, very different level. And amongst various asset classes which he may be talking today, he, in my opinion, is specialized more in equity related and similar aspects. So without wasting much of time, I would like to present to you Mr. Bharat Shah. Please, Bharat Bhai, welcome today. And we all are looking forward for your talk for next. We will have his talk for about maybe 45, 50 minutes, and then we will take the questions, maximum number of questions, time permitting. Over to Bharat Bhai, please.
Thank you. So, Kulin Bhai, should I start or Dr. Ramesh Shah?
No. Please start.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please start.
Yeah, only one last comment before you start I want to make is, when we make some amount of money, the concept of investment should be such that later on that money should earn reasonable amount for us, as if he is also, or that investment also is an earning member of our family. So if we are earning say 1 or 2 lakhs rupees a month, that investment also should earn 1 or 2 lakhs rupees per month kind of thing. So that, when we reduce or stop earning, that investment takes over and our quality of life can continue in the similar way. Bharat, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Kulin bhai, and a warm welcome to all the doctors and other professionals who might be on this call. Effort in this particular dialogue will not be to give you intricate technicalities of investing. Investing as a subject is too wide to cover every possible dimension or an aspect in this relatively brief dialogue. But my endeavor would be to whet the appetite of people. It is basically to kindle their interest into what investing is all about. And also to hopefully throw some kind of a perspective on what investing is and what investing is not. Because what it is not is equally important to understand, probably even more than what investing is. Because what it is not will let us know what are the boundaries. And knowing the boundaries, preclusion, exclusion, limiting away are some of the very vital ideas of investing. So my effort in this dialogue will be a bit more at a philosophical level in terms of thoughts and perspectives and broader level of ideas. Uh, Relatively more complex aspects or more technical aspects, I will relegate to the background. Unless somebody raises a question, I'll be too happy to kind of discuss them. But I'll try to keep it in a relatively simpler, as much simplicity as is possible in those simpler aspects of investing is what I like to kind of discuss about. I think, Kulin bhai, you raised a very vital issue towards the end of what you talk, that investing should give you a parallel of what your professional life is, that if you're making an X amount, investing should be able to serve as a useful servant of yours to give you something parallel. And I think that is at the heart of investing. I do not know in whatever perspective or in whatever way you picked up that thread, but in my opinion, this is one of the most important fundamental ideas behind investing. Investing basically is to create wealth from the wealth so that it creates parallel income stream. Even if you are not in the activity of investing, it lets you free to be doing what you delight and what you enjoy in life. In other words, investing creates choices, and it doesn't let you be bound to whatever you are doing professionally merely because you have to do it in order to earn a given amount of livelihood or income, etc. In other words, investing lets you to be passionate about what you enjoy the life most about, that you do what you love to do rather than you do what you have to do. Many people in many walks of life, it is my profession and the business to meet with so many businessmen, probably in the corporate sector. Out of the some 6,000 plus listed companies in India, from their promoters, senior directors, senior other members of these companies, there'll be relatively very, very few whom I may not have come in contact with or in a good contact with over 32 years of investing that I've been into so far. Therefore, various people, whether some of the most accomplished businessmen and promoters of the firms, some of the most successful professionals, doctors, lawyers, many other professionals, some of the most senior executives in top firms who themselves have significant income base or wealth created out of their professional activity. One thing that I consistently, by and large, seen, that there are many, many individuals who are excellent at creating wealth. There are many individuals who are resoundingly good about what they do, and therefore they are able to carve out value or wealth out of what they do. But I have not seen too many people in these hallowed circle of the people that I met over more than 3 decades, who necessarily are equally proficient in creating wealth out of the wealth. Ability to create wealth out of the wealth is at the heart of what investing is all about. A parallel offshoot of investing or good investing is to be able to create income, a parallel income stream out of the wealth, such that that income can rival the professional income that an individual derives and at some stage exceed, and at some stage materially exceed, so that you are liberated from the tyranny of doing something because you just have to do. It basically gives you a choice to do what you like to do. And that passionate pursuit of value creation is what investing all about. The very other, some of the important ideas, you also touched upon, you alluded to in terms of the asset allocation. And my preference to focus on equities out of the many asset classes. Actually, my professional career has been both into equity and the fixed income investing. So both the branches of investing, when I was the chief investment officer at Birla Mutual Fund for about a decade, we were the largest fixed income managers of the country. And I, among relatively fewer members in the fund management fraternity, who has handled both equity and fixed income. Usually people decide to specialize and do only one of the two. Somehow I had interest in both, and I happened to be in a place, in a situation where I could spend time and devote my energy and kind of work upon both the areas. But yes, for the last 18 years as a partner at ASK and is the largest PMS firm in the country, my single-minded focus has been on equity investing and not on the fixed income investing. We of course do other asset classes, but I'll confine this dialogue essentially to the equity investing. But before I do that, it is important to put in picture the discipline of asset allocation. Principally, there are 4 assets or 4 asset classes. There are 2 physical asset classes and there are 2 financial ones. I'm not including one's own profession and the business is in any of these 4 because that remains a prime one. What we run as a business or what we may be running as our professional activity, like I presume most of you are medical professionals in the work that you pursue. That remains the prime springboard or the essence of what we do. So I'm not including that. In addition to that, which is the prime source and the prime motivation of all that we do, there are principally four asset classes. In the physical assets, there are two, real estate and gold or bullion. And on the financial assets, there are two, which is equity and the fixed income. I will not dwell too much time on either of the fixed assets, gold or the real estate, except to make a comment that physical assets essentially are assets for consumption. Unfortunately, over a long period of time, that understanding or discipline has been diluted, and people have tended to treat gold and the real estate also as articles of investment. And that's where some amount of subversion or actually perversion of the asset allocation discipline has crept over decades into the financial plans or the asset grouping of various individuals. So if you look at predominantly of the wealth of the Indian household, roughly about 25 to 30% is into the fixed income, fixed deposits, fixed income mutual funds, bonds, debentures, and what have you, and into insurance. A preponderantly large part of the wealth, almost about 40% plus, is into the equity, is into the real estate. An incredibly large amount, 20% plus, is into gold, and barely about 4% is into the equities. Now, if you look at what is the potential of each of the asset classes to create value, gold by definition has no economic value and therefore cannot have any capability to create any economic returns. Therefore, any returns of the gold are basically derived from inflation and rupee-dollar parity. Independently, actual economic creation of the value by gold is just a little above zero. So gold is an article of consumption. It's not an investment class. But traditionally in India, inflation has been chronic because external economy has not been managed very efficiently. Rupee depreciation has been a consistent reality. And therefore, what in dollar terms is close to just a little over 0% return over some 3 centuries per annum has converted into double-digit rupee returns in gold. And because that habit and behavior is replicated over a period of time, people think that is a reality. In similar sense, not exactly, but real estate also has been in a similar boat. Real estate, of course, has some economic value and economic utility, as a warehouse, as an office, as a factory place, and therefore, and even as a residence, there is an important economic need and a social need of people to live safely and healthily in a dwelling unit. Therefore, real estate is not exactly comparable to gold. Gold has zero economic utility. Real estate has some positive economic utility, but not as high as people have imagined. And in the past, for the similar reasons of high inflation, rupee perversity, overabundant usage of parallel economy and cash, all of that has supported high returns in real estate in the past. But that all is in the past, and the future is very, very different as far as the two asset classes is concerned. Even if at a time to time and at a particular time, like today, gold may suddenly acquire some currency in the eyes of the people. But over long run, gold is a perfect recipe for ensuring no returns being earned, or no real economic returns being earned. Net of the cost and the taxes, real estate also probably will border onto zero or maybe negative. Then you come to the two financial assets, equity and fixed income. Fixed income is not a scheme for getting wealthy. It is about maintenance. Net of inflation and net of tax, fixed income is guaranteed to give you zero or close to zero and at times negative returns. So make no mistake about it, that fixed income by definition will not keep you wealthy and ahead. It's a treadmill. More you run, more you remain at the same place, net of inflation and net of taxation. But that characteristic of the fixed income doesn't prevent it to be not part of the asset allocation. Fixed income has an important space in the asset allocation to the extent the amount allocated to the fixed income will preserve some of the vital goals of the life, to give you clarity in the mind that it doesn't take you away from core existential dilemmas that we all have to go through. In other words, to protect your living, protect your lifestyle, to cover some known important contingencies. Fixed income is a very useful asset class for a certain percentage of the wealth to be devoted to. And knowingly that it will not make one wealthy, but it will give you protection and it will give you peace of mind. That makes me come to the last asset out of these four that I discussed, which is equity. Of all the four assets, equity is the only asset class which net of inflation, net of taxation, that capital gains and the dividends are tracked, done well, and my underlining word is if done well, has a potential to create a real double-digit, compounded, long-term, real value creation of a kind which none of the other asset classes can match. Gold by definition would produce zero or negative, especially when economy is managed well and not arbitrarily. Real estate net of cost and taxes will produce close to zero. And many of you will be familiar that over last 8 or 10 years, probably real estate even in India has not gone anywhere. And if it has gone, typically it has gone downwards. So that is a new experience people have found, that even real estate prices can decline and for a long periods of time. Fixed income, I already explained, net of inflation and taxation can be little above zero or little below zero, but thereabouts. Equity is the only asset class in real terms can compound in double digits. But that's not your right, or that's not a benediction from God above, that when you allocate money to equity, that it will give you a double-digit compound. It is not a right, it is an opportunity to be there in that asset class. And if one has the right mindset, right temperament, right skill sets, a level of experience, and level of insights developed over a period of time, and done with discipline and great amount of wisdom, then at least this asset class permits you to be earning those returns if you behave as an equity investor. I'm repeating, it is not a right, but it is an opportunity that markets provide you, that if you do things right, then that is a possibility which exists in that asset class. Markets are not designed for participants of the markets to succeed. In fact, markets are designed for most of the participants to fail. Unfortunately, that is the long recorded history of investing of over 325 years, that it is not a duty of the markets to make participants in the market rich and wealthy. It is the duty of the market participant to behave with discipline and character, to abide by the rules and the principles, and to live by the credo in a right way over long run, in which case markets let you gracefully extract that bounty of a double-digit kind of a compounding is a potential that markets hold within its bosoms. That, I'm repeating, is not a right, but it is an opportunity which our skills will permit us to extract. The related other ideas. A lot of time people think of investing as a speed race. Investing is not a 100-meter sprint or a dash. Investing is a 26-mile marathon. And the mindset, endurance, patience, longevity, perspective, vision, all that go behind running a 26-mile marathon compared to a 100-meter dash, exactly the same ideas are involved as far as investing is concerned. Investing is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It is not a scheme which is designed to make people overnight very wealthy and very successful. It is not even a scheme designed to make outsized returns in a short period of time, even though there are many periods when such outcomes also occur, that you make outsized gains in a relatively short period of time. But that is not a fundamental, replicable, long-term, repeating attribute of equity investing. That is just one of the happenstances which happens time to time, where in a relatively short period of time, you make outsized gains, but that is counterbalanced by also other periods when in a relatively quick period, short period of time, you can lose a disproportionate amount of wealth on the paper, interspersed with many normal and ordinary periods in between. Therefore, with a 26-mile marathon or 43-kilometer marathon race mindset, in a long term, equity investing is all about compounding and compounding and compounding, recognizing that in between there will be periods of extra joy. There will also be the periods of excessive worry and concerns and challenge. And there will be a lot of periods of ordinary occurrences of joy and the volatility and concerns. But through that, if with a laser eye focus, if you retain your focus on the long-term objective, then this is one opportunity done with discipline, lets you compound, cutting through the noise, cutting through the din, and cutting through all the emotions that time to time recur, that focus on extracting what is due from markets into your pockets. Therefore, essentially, equity investing has to be approached with a mindset of great amount of temperament, great degree of discipline, adequate understanding of the important principles of equity investing, even more important is the attitude to control the risk, because too many investors are far too focused on the returns rather than understanding the risk. And finally, all that requires to be meticulously be converted into a good framework through which you can pick and choose good stocks, good businesses, which have the underlying character, potential, capability to create that long-term value. And it is therefore very vital to bear in mind the hierarchy. Hierarchy of the ideas, first and foremost, is the temperament and discipline. Equity investing is nothing if we do not have understanding of the fact that temperament, discipline, long-term view, and longevity are mother ideas of investing, and that should not be confused with short-term and transient and temporary things. Second important idea in equity investing is controlling risk. And that confusion comes because of the confusion between tangible and intangible. Returns made in a particular period is a tangible number, and therefore people can relate to it far more easily. But the risk undertaken to earn the returns is not easily quantifiable. And because it is not easily quantifiable, but it is comprehensible that whether you have taken high risk or intelligent risk to earn returns, you can understand the fact that whether somebody has taken high risk, reasonable risk, intelligent risk, or a poor quality risk in order to make those returns. It is very, very difficult to exactly quantify the quantum of risk undertaken the way you can quantify the returns earned. Because returns appear tangible and risk appears intangible, people tend to dismiss intangibility of the risk as immaterial and the tangibility of the return as a real idea. And because of that optical illusion and the intellectual confusion, people do not understand that real returns earned are the gross returns earned minus the risk undertaken to earn the returns. The fact that a risk is not attacked you, the fact that a risk is not taken away money from your pockets in a particular period of time doesn't mean that the risk has gone away. It only means that you were lucky in a certain period that you got returns, but you did not see the negatives of the risk that you undertook. But like long term, all the things reverse to the mean. Even the risk undertaking has a timeline. And therefore, if it is not invaded, it is not marauded, it is not attacked you in a particular period, it doesn't mean it has gone away. And therefore, if it has not happened in a particular period, the probability is extremely high that it will actually happen, and in an unprepared way, or in a way where you are least prepared to face it. The risk may come in all the full ferocity and in its completeness, and may take away everything that may have happened in the foregoing period. Suffice it to say, return is not what optically you see as a return. Return earned minus the risk undertaken, which is hard to quantify but real, the net figure of that is the real return. And if that real return appears to be higher in a particular period because risk is not attacked, do not believe that risk has gone away. It's just that risk is waiting to make a next victim out of you. And therefore, risk control is as important, if not more, than actually the returns earned. Third is the principles of investing. Over centuries of investing, certain ideas have been at the forefront, the fountainhead of explaining what investing really has worked and what kind of things have failed. And understanding those principles, adhering to those principles even more, are very vital ideas in order to ensure that investing is successful and not prone to the accidents. Therefore, some important mother ideas. Size of opportunity is one. That size of opportunity is not about the size of a business, but actually about potential of a business to get bigger tomorrow than what it is today. That is at the heart of good investing all about. Investing is not about buying necessarily what is big today. It is far more critical to buy something what is going to get bigger tomorrow than what it is today. Therefore, more than whether it is something big today or not, whether what is there will become much bigger tomorrow is far more important. And size of opportunity is a root of determining that particular factor. Management quality is another some such idea. Ethics, capability, good capital allocation, good capital distribution, foresight, vision, good execution, culture, all of these are defining telltale hallmark of what a good management is. When we flirt away with the principle of not being in bed ever with a bad management, we make fundamental fatal errors of investing. Time to time, bad businesses and the bad managements do well in the marketplace. And therefore it gives an illusion to the people that that is what investing is all about. Time to time, some rubbish companies also may go up extremely high. I mean, if you think about it, suddenly an ordinary and rather a mediocre business like Ruchi Soya has gone up some 50 times and 100 times in no time to come, can give an illusion to people that that is the way to make investing returns. Or if you recollect some 20 years back, a stray business like Himachal Futuristic went up from 20 rupees to 3,500 rupees in a matter of less than 2 years. And today it rots at some 2 rupees at a price. Or some Pentamedia, some Pentagraphic, some Global Tele, some Satyam, some DSQ software, and endless number of rotten businesses, bad managements. When given a fertile set of conditions, produce some outsized returns in a particular period, but realize that these are honey traps. These are not a replicable reality syndrome. Finally, the good stock selection based on these fundamental principles, large size of opportunity, great character of the management, great character of the business, because very, very few businesses are designed or have a character to create any significant, predictable, long-term, real value creation. And when you apply this understanding on these core ideas, then you can convert all these ideas into something bit more mathematical or bit more numbers in terms of the future likely growth that the business will generate. And then there is another set of mathematics which allows you to convert anticipated future real cash flows or the profits of the business per annum generated, discounted back to the present in real terms to arrive at what is called the value of a business. And finally, when you understand what is the value of a business, not its price, but its value, then it allows you to make more meaningful, intelligent, and disciplined investment decisions, essentially knowing that value is what you get and price is what you pay. Therefore, for that transaction of give and take to be profitable, you have to give less than what you get. Therefore, value of a business has to be higher than the price that you pay, so that the gap between the two is a return that you make as a one-time extra. There are two investment returns you make in an investment. One is the gap between price that you pay and the value that you get, which I just described. Technically, it is called margin of safety, or whether value is higher than the price, therefore it's a benefit. If the value is lower than the price that you pay, then you are surrendering an advantage and paying actually premium, which is a negative. Depending upon it's a margin of safety or a margin of disadvantage, it offers you one-time extra return or one-time loss when, depending upon it is an advantage or an adversity. There is a second set of return that you make in an investment, which is a recurrent one. Margin of safety gives you one-time return. Repeatable return or an annuity return or a per annum return is a replicable return over the future on a per annum basis. And a terrific proxy for that per annum return or long-term return comes from the underlying earnings growth or the real cash flow growth of the business. Therefore, if somebody can predict for you that a given business that you buy today over the next 15 to 20 years will produce an earnings growth of say 15, 16% per annum compounded, you can almost mathematically predict, if you check the figures after that 15, 20 years of the growth, that your returns, that per annum returns will more or less be similar to that underlying earnings growth. If the long-term, say 20-year earnings growth of the business was say 15%, your actual investment returns, replicable returns would be 14%, 14.5%, 15%, 16%, 17%, but somewhere in the vicinity of that annuity number. In the long run, markets are almost mathematical and almost axiomatic and almost rule-driven. Therefore, markets lend themselves to predictability when you look at things over a long run. But as much as they are predictable and axiomatic and lending themselves to greater certainty over a long run, which is ironic because human minds tend to think much more about today and immediacy or past, but rarely want to think and contemplate about future. But investing is all about future. 95% or more of the investing is about future. 5% or less is about past and present, while human minds typically think exactly the other way around. They dwell way too much in the past or way too much in the present and relatively very, very little into the future. With that kind of a mindset, one can never be a successful investor because investing is all about judging future, conjecturing it, converting into some kind of data and some kind of judgments, some kind of conjectures. Also converting many of these conjectures and ideas into some kind of numbers and mathematics, and using some alternate set of mathematics, converting all of that into some another number or an idea like a value, and then having judged that value to work with that number with discipline, correlate with price, settle a margin of safety, act upon it with fortitude and discipline, and then play on it for long run. Investing is nothing if it is not long run. Investing is like a good marriage. It is not like an attractive short-term affair. Affairs can be very alluring and can be very charming, but can be hugely damaging. Marriages, even with all the care and all the support, at times lapse into some amount of mundaneness, some amount of repetitiveness, some amount of boringness. But yet, it is that replicated boringness which succeeds and sustains. Investing is exactly like that. It is that long-term marriage. All that involves in a good long-term marriage is also involved into investing. You work with the principles, you work with the judgment of the character of your partner rather than individual instances, individual incidents. You don't treat it in a moody and temperamental manner. You time to time take into account the tantrums and the some amount of squabbles with your partner. But because there are some temporary short-term disputes and disagreements with your partner, you don't throw away your relationship out of the window. It's exactly that way into investing. You take into account the character of the business, you take into account the character of the people who run that business, you see and judge the long-term potential, you convert that into some kind of a crunchable idea which you can relate to, fully knowing that time to time there'll be challenges, time to time there'll be disturbances, there will be times even a best business may not perform to your expectation. There will be a time when even when a business performs, market price may not perform as it should. But all these temporary squabbles do not result into a divorce. Similarly, temporary challenges in a business should not result into your selling away of the stock. You tolerate those short-term squabbles and short-term disputes so long as they are not fundamental, so long as they are not material, and so long as they are not fatal to the relationship. So long as these aspects are in place, a good marriage, even if occasionally for a period of time getting to be boring, it is our duty to refresh and make it rejuvenated rather than fall into the temptation of tempestuous affairs, which can be attractive but eventually fatal. Finally, I'll say that investing is not a DIY scheme. Ease of investing tempts and makes people believe that anybody can do investing. Please mind you, I'm not trying to solicit any sales business for me. Long ago, I'm past that stage. I'm not trying to win any brownie points for the professional money management industry. Or am I trying to seek anything for my firm or myself in order to earn any brownie points? But there are things that some people can do, and there are things that many people can't. There are some skills that some people can build it, even though however challenging and daunting they may appear to the others. At the same time, some others thrive in these challenges. You take your own profession. When you conduct an eye surgery or when you conduct even other surgeries, not everything is a precise science. You have done your diagnostics, you have done your pre-checks, so you have a fair idea before you enter into a surgery of what to expect. But at the same time, you are aware that at the time when you are finally conducting a surgery, there are some unknowns and some unknowables may suddenly spring up, and that may require you to do course correction, to make on-the-spot judgments, and to make course correction in the live situation. At that time, your experience, your insights, your heuristics, your, so to say, chiseled wisdom that you have earned over a period of time, your sense of fine balance between art and science of your surgery. Lot of part of your surgery will be science, but there is a part of that surgery which is art. All of these you marshal at your command, and at that stage, you take a decision whether X or a Y path. You cannot entirely be sure that X will result into success or Y will be a better decision. But at that point, you have to make that decision and take that chance. When your insights are right, your experience is right, when your judgment and chiseled wisdom is right, when your thinking is well moderated and balanced, when faced with this kind of crunch situations, more right things will happen as an outcome, even though you can't entirely say whether a particular decision will be right or wrong. But over long enough a period of time, long enough surgeries, enough things will come right, and a few will slip through the crack. When you flip a coin, there is a probability of half the probability of a head and half the probability of a tail. But when there is a short universe of the flipping, say when you flip the coin 5 times, it is possible that all 5 times can be head, or it can be tail, or it can be 4 and 1, etc. When you flip it 10 times, it still can be 8 and 2, or a 9 and 1, or a 10 and 10. But when you do 2000, it will not be 1800 and 200. It may still be 1200 and 800, or 1100 and 900. When you do 200,000 flips, then the results will be 99,500 and 1,500,000. And when you do a million flips, you will get a result which will be more like 4,99,500 and 5,500 times. The point I am trying to make is, investing is not a game of chance. At a particular flipping the coin, it is a chance, but done over enough number of things that you do, whether enough investment decisions, enough surgeries, enough medical decisions when you make, it is much more a game of a skill and not a game of chance. Therefore, DIY or do it yourself may appear very, very attractive, because participating in market, buying something is personified. You can place an order, or you can work up your computer and you can place an order and get it executed. And at times you will succeed also. And it will seemingly give you a feeling that it is working well. But investing over a long run requires a disciplined pursuit of controlling your temperament, controlling your mind, keeping almost detached interestedness, detached because you have to view things from a distance rather than too much proximity, so that you don't lose your perspective. Interestedness because you've interested, therefore you invested, therefore you are bound to be interested. But when your interestedness is interspersed with the prejudices and biases and temperamental quirks, that's when it gets dangerous. Therefore, detachment is very vital idea while remaining interested in the outcomes. Therefore, that entire art and science of investing is a bit more art and a bit less science, it bit more of wisdom and little less of intellect. It is bit more of a discipline and a little less of a knowledge. And it is far, far more a game of a skill and temperament and capability, and far little over a long enough period of a chance. Therefore, it is not a DIY scheme. You can buy a bank fixed deposit without consulting people. You can easily buy even a property without consulting too many people. You can also probably buy a fixed income mutual fund, maybe with less assistance, though that also requires some assistance. But equity investing, the ease of doing it should not delude you into believing that it is easy. Investing is not easy. It is simple to understand, but it is not easy. An important idea is to understand the difference between the two. Simple to understand because the principles underlying a good investment are very easy. A good management, a good business, large size of opportunity, a level of compounding growth, a durable growth over a long period of time, backed by right quality of growth so that the quality of the growth is not destructive, such that the growth itself becomes cancerous. Because unchecked growth is a cancerous growth. Therefore, quality of growth is very important idea for the growth in itself to convert into value. Then to judge the value, set a margin of safety, buy with a discipline, and get two sets of returns. Margin of safety is a one-time return. Underlying per annum growth of the earnings is a per annum long-term return. All these are simple ideas to comprehend. There is nothing very complicated. But doing it well, doing it with discipline, doing with temperament, sustaining it over time after time, faced with the enemy which Mr. Market is. And that brings me to the last. Mr. Market has no vested interest in making you, a participant, succeed. Mr. Market, in fact, is designed to make you fail. Time to time, Mr. Market throws up lottery schemes, throws up traps, throws up allurements, and tries to ensnare and trap you into making a mistake. And because most participants in the market are either intellectually or in terms of the wisdom not fully aware of all the traps or not sufficiently aware of the traps, there is a very, very high probability that they will fall for the chance and the traps of the market. And therefore, unfortunately, more than 95% of the participants in the market over long run actually produce subpar, close to zero, or actually negative returns, even if markets in entirety have produced positive results. It's actually less than 5% of the participants who play by the rule book of the temperament and skills and the discipline and knowledge and wisdom and intellect and good judgment tempered by humility and understanding. It is that very few who really make more returns than what markets deliver, because ultimately remaining 95% or higher, because they produce numbers below that, it allows those 5% or less to make better returns. Therefore, I'm once again saying this is not a self-seeking statement. It is not an advertisement for my firm or my business to win over anybody as a client or to solicit business. It is merely to highlight investing is simple but not easy. And behind that beguiling simplicity of investing lies a very difficult, a very temperamental beast to be mastered over a long period of time. I will, Kulin bhai, stop here and would wait for questions.
Thank you, Bharat bhai. I think you were brilliant in making us understand the philosophy of investment. I believe you can hear me, Bharat bhai?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So we really understood the philosophical part of the investment extremely well. Many of us probably understood for the first time in this much of basic level. But from practical point of view, there are going to be some questions also. And before my co-moderator, Dr. Ramesh bhai, Dr. RC, ask some questions, I'll request our sponsor to play just 1 minute video, and we'll take break from the main subject for about a minute. They want to show their product for a minute. Ashok, please.
Yeah, yes, sir. Navneet will do that. Thanks, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashok and Navneet. I think I'll ask Ramesh bhai to start some question sessions.
There is a question from Delhi. What kind of retirement corpus do the Bharat bhai recommend for a doctor, 60 years old man, estimated monthly expenses 1 lakh rupees per month at the age of 60?
Well, I can explain the principles.
Sir, I request you, if you can more specific so that the people can understand directly.
Yes. I can still only explain the principle behind it. Individual situation, of course, will vary from person to person, and therefore there can't be a straightjacketed formula. But essentially, if you have, let's say, 1 lakh rupee of expenses, you have to count likelihood of what length of time that you will be alive and kicking. What can be potential inflation over a period of time, because your expenses of 1 lakh today by the same token will be higher tomorrow. There also needs to be taken into account a potential contingency which may creep in, which nobody can predict but can happen in real life, like suddenly a rude interruption of COVID has happened in the lives of people out of the blue. And therefore, all of these in a prudent plan needs to be covered. Then you have to make some judgment as to what kind of what kind of probable income or interest rate your fixed income investing may be able to generate. Again, it is a guesstimate. It can't be a perfect number, because when you try to predict over the 3 and 5 and 10 years of interest rates, at best it is a wild guess rather than a reality. Therefore, all of these you have to temper with an extra dosage of conservatism. Let us say 1 lakh rupee is a monthly expense. Structurally, you say 5% is an inflation. you believe that you will be alive for at least say 85 years of age. And you may count a probable contingency, some challenge which may in between at some stage may crop up. Maybe more than one challenge, some medical issue, some other need. Let us say you need to set apart another 1.5, 2 crore at today's market value to be protected for that unknown future contingency. And then you assume that long-term fixed income interest rate or any reasonable fixed income investment, not unsafe and poor quality investments of divan housing and some such variety where your money may end up vaporizing, let us say is 5.5, 6% per annum. Therefore, when you convert it all into the mathematics, you may find that you may need, let's say you need 12 lakhs on a per annum basis. With inflation and normalized basis, that amount may work out to more like 17, 18 lakhs per annum over the life that one talks about. If you are talking of some 5.5, 6% kind of an interest rate to be generated with some possible shocks on the way, it will then tell you that at least you will need something like 3 crore corpus merely to cover your expenses. But you need to cover some contingency. That contingency, you don't know when it may hit you. Today you may quantify it as say 2 crore, but tomorrow it may be of a larger amount. Therefore, let's say you may need another 3 crores today. Therefore, let's say you need some 6 crore amount to be put to work, which is set aside knowingly into low earning return like a fixed income, knowing fully well that that return is suboptimal, will not beat inflation and takes rigor, but you have chosen it purely as a peace of mind and as a part of prudent asset allocation, so that remaining amount of the corpus is available to take intelligent risk, not a chancy risk, but intelligent risk. And that remaining part of the money can hope to compound in real terms, that is after inflation, after tax, maybe say at the rate of 10, 12%, and therefore before inflation and before tax, maybe at the rate of 15, 17% compounded over a period of time, then that is the kind of amount which is available for intelligent risk-taking, surplus amount over and above, let us say that 6 crore amount that you have set apart. I'm just putting those broad numbers, but individual situation obviously will vary.
What do you think about the interest rate going for the next 6 months to 1 year time? About the...
Only God alone knows. A mortal like me can only make a conjecture, but
that's what
full chance of going wrong. Interest rates in the short run, in all probability, are headed downwards, though they materially decline. Now, mathematics of interest rate is basically linked into structural fiscal policy.
That's okay.
Therefore, fiscal deficit and the current account deficit are two important sources or inputs which go into determining your interest rate likely behavior. When fiscally government is disciplined and they manage things in a prudent way rather than in a quizzical short-term way, then fiscal deficit, even though temporary time to time challenges may come, like COVID, for example, which will throw fiscal deficit out of gear for some time. But fundamentally, if you remain disciplined the way I would say current government has been managing over last few years, then fiscal deficit will remain under control and over a period of time may decline. That allows inflation structurally to remain tamed, which, for example, 6, 7 years back, inflation was in double digit. Today, it has come down to barely about 3.5%. 5, 6 years back, even best companies in the country couldn't have borrowed at anything less than 11 to 12%. Today, best companies can easily borrow at 7.25% on a long term. In a short term, top quality companies are able to borrow even at as low as 3.5 to 4% kind of rates. So base companies were borrowing at 11 and 12% 6 or 7 years back. Today they can easily borrow long-term money at 7%. Also, current account deficit, which is the difference between your external positive balance and external negative one through imports. When structurally you manage it with discipline, rupee remains under a range, under a discipline, under a control. It will not go out of the way. As an emerging economy, as a developing economy, some amount of rupee depreciation is actually desirable in order to improve the competitiveness of our international trade. So when you take into account all of that, foundationally, structurally, over 5-6 years, we have created a base for inflation to be tamed, fiscal deficit to remain manageable, money supply to be disciplined, and current account deficit to be moderated. All that sets the stage for inflation to come down and cost of capital to come down. Though it has come down materially in last 1 year in particular, I would still think there is a scope for it to fall further, maybe by 50 to 75 basis points even from now.
How do you rate this government managing the economy in last 6 months in the presence of COVID and the way in which they have given the fiscal stimulus? Do you rate them between 1 and 10? Where do you stay? Where do this government stand?
I'm not in the business of popularity.
So I'm just in general, because all this.
I'll not get into those kind of things of saying 1 or 2 or 5.
Okay.
This kind of television debates is not my cup of tea.
Okay.
And I will not get into that, but I'll say only this much.
Where they have done well or they have done poor?
Yes, in my opinion, they've acted with responsibility.
Yes.
They've acted with discipline.
Yes.
There has been a lot of pressure for government to splurge, throw money, and to support this or support that. Every single business has suffered from COVID. It is not one business. Even your profession, one would have thought last, which will suffer. But even a doctor had to keep his clinic or his consulting room closed. Who could have imagined ever that such a thing would have happened?
Most of us were zero revenue for so many weeks or months, zero revenue. We understand.
So every single economic activity has suffered. Nothing is exempt. No business, no industry, no economic activity has been immune. But interest groups are always there. People will clamor for this benefit, that benefit. We must recognize we are not America. We are not Germany. We are not Japan. They can throw a lot of money. They can throw a lot of resources on the table. They can even do wrong things, like some of the actions of American Fed, in my opinion, are short-termist in character and actually destructive probably in the long run.
Yes.
But America is America, dollar is dollar. We are humble rupee, we are humble India, and we have to remain within our limitations and not throw our weight too much around. Within these limitations, in my opinion, government is acted with a lot of character, lot of responsibility, lot of balance, and not fallen prey to popularity contest. They have not tried to pander to the base demands from media, from interest groups, from all kinds of noise and the bystanders around.
Can you tell us which sector is likely to do well in next 2 years' time for our viewers, so that they can pick up some of the scripts on their own? We don't want to recommend them anything, but these are the industries which are very likely to do well in spite of all the factors which are working together today. Which sectors do you expect that?
I'll put it in 3 parts. There are sectors which are doing well pre-COVID and would continue to do well after the COVID interruption is over. when they resume their upward journey. Then there are businesses which probably were inferior even prior to COVID, and then they will get probably into far greater difficulty or greater trouble going forward. Then there are businesses which actually gain out of the COVID situation. In other words, these are the businesses which have actually developed favorable tailwinds based on what has happened as far as COVID is concerned. I will not go into the second group. Let me talk about the first and the third group. The first group or let me start with the third group, the businesses which actually will gain out of COVID over a period of time. Mind you, they too will suffer the physical distancing, lockdown, the disruption it would cause for whatever length of time the lockdown or modified lockdown will remain. But fundamentally, once these effects wear out, they have actually favorable tailwind and a greater size of opportunity than before. So for example, insurance, health, life insurance, general insurance, they in any case have excellent demographics as a support prior to that. Penetration of these areas has been very modest compared to the developed economies as far as India is concerned. With the COVID, actually they have developed a favorable tailwind because everybody, an individual will have to rethink his life, individual will have to rethink his health cover, businesses will have to rethink their real insurance cover because they've insured all the business risks properly and intelligently or not. Households may have to think whether they've covered their risks adequately because households are very, very poor in covering their risks properly. Therefore, insurance in general would have great tailwinds, even though they are affected in the given near term by the physical lockdown, what has occurred. Then health related, pharmaceuticals, healthcare systems, diagnostic chains, and all that you have. These businesses over a period of time definitely will have favorable tailwinds. Metropolis and Dr. Lal also had to go through the sufferance that they will not be able to do as much routine testing during this time because people are not getting routine things done, they are not getting routine surgeries done, and they are postponing. And to that extent, many of these tests and other diagnostics may get deferred, some may get lost, etc., etc. But over a period of time, based on COVID, I think the awareness and thinking about health in general will revisit both institutionally from the government end as well as at an individual end in terms of the individuals themselves. Or not to forget even structurally, organizationally. For example, certain kind of insurance is now made mandatory for all businesses of a certain size to be offered to their people, that they have to build that. These and greater spend on health and healthcare is a certainty over a period of time to deal with these monsters. Pharmaceuticals, even chronic pharmaceuticals which are recurrently taken, they would suffer less initially because they are chronic. You have been taking those medicines and you will continue to take. But acute medicines, which are for a specific problem, specific issue, may get deferred because you have not gone to doctor for consultation or you have postponed the need, etc. So temporarily, both will still have impact, but over the long run, pharmaceutical, without any doubt, will have a great tailwind. Third is telecom and technology. You were asking something?
Yes, I was asking about the API.
I'm coming to API thereafter. The pharmaceutical is different from API. API is a source material for pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceutical fully made are different than the source material API. Unfortunately, large part of it which we import from that rogue country, China, over a period of time, hopefully will reduce and eliminate that dependence. But for the while, we may have to live there with that dependence. The third area is telecom and technology. If you think over it, in these times when people have tried to operate without their normal support of workplace and normal infrastructure of the workplace, why people have been able to operate and do their work sitting at home, in great part owes it to your technology. Telecom has been at a base of it. Whether you have been able to make your electricity payment or you've been able to transfer your credit card dues to the bank, whether you have been able to make your other payments that you are required to do, whether you want to conduct your business of the office place by connecting with the others, or whether we are doing this dialogue today, which otherwise 6 months back, 99.9% of Indians wouldn't have any idea about Zoom, but we are doing that today. In huge way, this is coming from the telecom, which is a base, but a larger foundation is technology, which will include platforms, which will include many other embedded technologies, whether mobile technology, whether computer-based technologies, whether it is enterprise-level architecture to be worked, businesses which can be fully digitized but are not, will rethink and will get themselves digitized. Businesses which can partly be digitized, entire part cannot be digitized, but that part which can be digitized is not done, will get digitized going forward. So telecom, technology, e-commerce related activities, for example, 5G and robotic remote surgery as an idea. If a doctor sitting in New York doing a brain surgery for a patient on sitting in Mumbai, you cannot dare to conduct that precision surgery without 5G as a technology.
5G is the must.
With 3G and 4G, you still will be at a risk and you will not be confident. But when you have a 5G, your 3D manufacturing, artificial intelligence, robotics, remote surgery, remote working, many of these ideas which are at a foundation of next industrial or manufacturing revolution wouldn't be possible. All these will get a great filling. Then the chemistry. I'll just finish that, and then chemistry is a vast area, and apart from China, India is one of the biggest players in that area. America and Germany are the other two big daddies. Barring these four countries, other countries don't count as far as chemicals and chemistry is concerned. As far as manufacturing is concerned, in large parts, even America and Germany don't count for much. They may still be at the forefront of evolution of technology, but not in terms of manufacturing that. As far as manufacturing is concerned, it is actually India and China. None of the other geographies in a meaningful way really matter. As far as China is concerned, mass bulk volume production at low cost or artificially low cost in Chinese OPEC system, India is not a match. China is ahead of India by long miles. But if you talk about specialty chemicals, reagents, catalysts, specialty chemicals, you talk about active agrochem specialty ingredients, even specialty active pharmaceutical ingredients, the sheer technological capability and skills of the chemistry in India is superior to China. It may not be at that scale as far as China is concerned, but talent and capability and knowledge not just of the chemistry, but also manufacturing technology knowledge is far superior in India compared to China. Even before COVID, many of these chemistry chains were moving away from China bit by bit in favor of India to move away from dependence on China. Now with the COVID and things just before COVID and things just while COVID is going on, we have discovered further evil aspect of Chinese behavior all over the world. And therefore, it is going to be a greater reality that slowly but steadily, more and more value chains will move away from China in favor of India. Entire chains cannot be replaced, will not be replaced even in long times to come, because China is too material a player there for it to be replaced in immediacy or materially in entirety. But make no mistake, sufficient parts of the chain will move in favor of India. Therefore, a lot of good Indian chemical makers have a great opportunity in this area. So these are some examples of industries which were having already a good opportunity, but have a favorable tail. Then the first set of businesses where businesses were doing well, there is a rude interruption right now. And after that interruption is over, they will resume back into their journey. I would say finance, which will include lending. Lending will mean basically non-banking finance firms or banking lenders, insurance businesses, services like asset management. People, even COVID will make people rethink about wealth, planning, prudence, allocation of the assets and doing it right and judiciously. So many of these activities are fundamental in terms of the opportunity. Finance also has two important distinctions. Finance is a force multiplier. Therefore, it grows at a rate much higher than the GDP growth rate. And second, it's a lead indicator, not a lag indicator. Therefore, growth of the finance precedes the growth of the economy. And thirdly, finance typically is among the more sophisticated segments of the economy compared to average of the economy in entirety. Therefore, finance is a great barometer of likely things to come over a period of time. Consumption, whether staples, durables, consumer discretionary, luxury, consumer services, all kinds of consumption. Even though there is a brief and a rude interruption right now, we have huge, staggering long highway in terms of the growth in that area. And several businesses will get 2 times, 5 times, 10 times bigger over a period of time than what they are today. Then, for example, businesses like cement, industry which is restructured beautifully over last 15, 20 years, consolidated, global in capability, cost, efficiency, character. For example, a company like Shree Cement is the most efficient producer of cement in the world, and not just in India. And we are at a tipping point of a scale where many of these cement businesses structurally will become bigger and much bigger over a period of time, even though there has been interruption now. I talked about agrochem, farm nutrients, agriculture related technology. Three of the biggest reforms ever in agriculture are the ones which have happened last month by new agricultural reforms that government has announced. It is mother of all reforms, I can say that. It may take 3 to 4 years before the reforms fully will get integrated into the system, but make no mistake, over a period of time, this will fundamentally revolutionize Indian agriculture for long term. Therefore, many of these businesses will grow. Then automobile, even though last 2 years have been extremely challenging, over long term, the need for a personal mobility, expression of freedom, our engineering capability, our design and skill capability in that area is second to none in the world. Even Chinese who came to India for two-wheelers, they beat a retreat after a few years when they tried to make things cheap and throw money, but they couldn't succeed, and finally they had to withdraw. Many of these businesses and many others would do very well along with some of the others that I mentioned. Pharmaceutical diagnostic chains, I see a great future for some of the fine firms, both in the domestic market as well as in the international market. Domestic market has been relatively more neglected for a length of time. But I think now in earnestness, domestic market also is being focused. Prime example is multinationals earlier rarely brought new molecules and new pharmaceuticals into the Indian market. But today, if you see how, for example, Sanofi is doing, how AstraZeneca is behaving, how Pfizer is behaving, how even Glaxo is behaving, is very different than in the past in terms of introducing their brand new, or Abbott is doing, introducing their brand new molecules into the country. That shows that the size of opportunity, perception about it all have changed. So there are many, many businesses which are where fundamentally that opportunity remains. One final point. Investing is not about sectors. Investing is not about timing the market. Investing is not about even macroeconomic judgments. Investing is not about even finding precise point or technical gambits to find out best opportune moment to buy into. Investing remains bottom-up stock picking, driven by long-term understanding of what will make that business work over a period of time. Therefore, sector and general opportunities, while they are important in themselves, important part of investing is bottom-up stock picking to find out which business in these opportunity spaces, because of their special capabilities, special reasons, special talent, their strategy and their brands and their capability will do better than the others, is an important piece. And it is that bottom-up stock picking that we have to remain hugely focused on. Sectors and broader generality are important in themselves, but as a backdrop and not as a front.
Bharat Bhai, I have received one question in a very simple generalized way. A typical career of a doctor or eye doctor is say between the age of 30 and 65 or 70 years in general. At what age one should think about deploying how much money? Of course, how much money will depend on the income, but what percentage should be deployed in how, what should be the general guidelines for a lay person here to plan his finances?
In terms of the time, at the earliest,
what age to do what, maybe a little bit on asset allocation point of view,
yes,
or a little bit.
Yes. So two parts there. First part, in terms of the age or the time to commence, is at the earliest possible. If you can do it at the age of 20 and 22 and 25, much, much better. We have to remember, investing is a long-term marathon. It is not a short-term sprint. And the power of compounding works beautifully over long run, may not necessarily work in the short run. Therefore, longer the time that you give to yourself, longer is the highway, greater is the chance to build a ready corpus much earlier and in a much more efficient way than later. Investing should not be available corpus to investment, should not be viewed as income minus expenses and whatever is a surplus to be put into as an investment. It should be viewed as income minus it should be viewed as a target of what surplus you want to invest, and then spend whatever is the balance left out of your income to be allocated. That is the right mindset to think about it. To young millennials, that may sound very challenging, but that is at the heart of investing. Therefore, in terms of the age, as early as you can spare, as little as you can spare, but if you start developing the practice of investing as early as you can, it will refine your ideas, it will clarify your thoughts, it will improve your concepts, and when you are ready to put bigger money, you would not be experimenting, but you will be more solid in terms of what you are doing. So that's in terms of the age and the time. In terms of the, asset allocation, I would say, as I mentioned earlier, real estate and the gold are pure consumption assets. So a house that you need, if you are a doctor and needing a consulting room or a hospital or a clinic, those are essential assets that you need in order to do your activity. But it is a consumption asset. Beyond that consumption need of a real estate, any further investment into real estate is actually weakening your asset allocation and debilitating and weakening your wealth. Therefore, surplus real estate should be out. Gold is a... Yes.
Can I make a point? As you mentioned rightly, that many times real estate becomes an attraction for maybe unaccounted money. My personal opinion is that all of us should show 100% of the income and pay tax, because that remaining 65 or 70% is much stronger than that cash money. Your opinion on that also?
Without any doubt. I mean, I can't say endorse it more. People think that taxes saved is like a wealth accumulated, but people fail to realize that money illicitly kind of saved or stashed away cannot be put into productive channels. And money which is not put into productive channels will go away as an illicit expenditure or a wasteful expenditure. And in fact, money put to work after paying taxes productively will actually generate over a period of time greater surpluses, which will more than make up for the taxes which one sought to evade or save. Therefore, gold and the real estate only need base and not as an investment asset. Fixed income, as I mentioned to you, as much as is necessary to kind of maintain the life of an individual, to kind of spare a need for taking care of the needs and expenses and lifestyle. But need for fixed income actually comes at a later stage. When you have accumulated a surplus, that some amount of money can actually go into the fixed income. At a younger age, after taking care of the consumption assets, really speaking, surpluses should ideally be devoted to quality equity, so that that is a chance of accumulating to a larger sums. And as you accumulate wealth and as you create larger income pool, then some amount of fixed income judiciously can be carved out over a period of time. Now, needs of the people will vary. Like Dr. Ramesh Bhai was asking me earlier about a person needing to spend 1 lakh a month and what he needs to spare at the age of 60. Then depending upon each one's need, one can work out the kind of a broad ballpark. But using these principles, one can make a good idea of what one needs at that stage. But a need for fixed income is actually later and not at an earlier age, while people actually tend to do the other way around.
So you're talking sorry, earlier age, there should be more focus on equity, and after maybe 45, 50, 55, some fixed income can be considered.
Absolutely.
Yes, Archie.
You, in between, I had lost my connection. So I would like to ask you, everybody's talking about these robots, which is likely to be future, 3D printings, the manufacturing will change. Do you have any company which is listed, which are likely, which is there? Probably I've tried to find out the company which are there into either of this business. And we have probably a good listed company in these two sectors. Can you give us some idea about?
ABB is there, Siemens is there, Honeywell is there. To a differing extent, to differing level, these three companies are engaged into some of the future technologies. Robotics, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, 3D manufacturing, remote operating capability, not just operations, but ability to do things from a remote location using intelligent sensing. Many of these technologies, virtual reality, augmented reality, data analytics, many of these technologies which are at the forefront of what is going to happen tomorrow, the work is going on today in a good way. It may not show up as a revenue today or tomorrow quickly, but over a period of time, it will make a big difference. So some of these companies are engaged deeply. For example, ABB, compared to Siemens, is far more into these newer areas. But Siemens is a much bigger company than ABB, even globally. Therefore, there is that balancing one needs to do in terms of what will work, when, over what length of time. But some of these companies are at the forefront of these emerging technologies.
Any small or mid-cap company in this sector, if you can identify?
In this area? The area that you're talking about?
Yeah.
Not too many that come to mind which have reach a level of scale or level of strength which gives you confidence about predictability.
Even in the earliest, even in the earliest stage of the development, if they are the small players, great. Because these small players,
unlisted, there are plenty of companies which are
there. No, I'm talking of the listed.
In the listed space, because
they are the likely to give the huge amount of return if it works.
But that is the qualifying statement, if it works. And chances are, when we do things with 10 of them, a good way to look at them will be if 6, 7 of them work, then it's a good ratio. But if 6, 7 of them will fail, then it's a very terrible ratio to be making upon. And there must be reasonable way of judging at the beginning which 6, 7 of them have a greater chance of working. Otherwise, it ends up being like a gambling kind of a chance. So there are a lot of companies which are doing some part is their operating work, where they are working on these kind of technology. For example, Thermex, while they are predominantly a boiler company, but they are working on intelligent boiler systems which can revolutionize heat management in a different way over a period of time. But it's a relatively smaller part of the business, a relatively smaller application. It cannot dramatically alter the complexion of the business in totality in reasonable foreseeable future of say 5 years and more. If it can't change over at least in 5 years or so, it will be making too early a judgment and suffering in the process. Because we always have to balance between emergent future and the present reality and manage the stress between the two in order to make a good and intelligent investing.
In case of agriculture, which portion of the agriculture you are expecting a good return in next 2 years?
I can't in a public forum talk too much about
that's okay. I'd say that's okay. It's okay.
And the companies
it's okay.
Inappropriate. But farm nutrients, crop protection systems, crop protection chemicals, farm mechanization solutions, fertilizers, seeds, many of them are important direct opportunities. Then there are, like for example, the new agriculture related reforms announced, contract farming is one such step. Dismantling of Agriculture Produce Market Committee, APMC, which is hotbed of political interference by a lot of state level politicians and lot of corruption. When APMCs are dismantled, like this agriculture reform which has been proposed, also contract farming, so that these mandis don't have too much of stranglehold over the farmers. And important thing, freedom to the farmers to sell to anybody rather than to only APMCs. These are fundamental building blocks which will revolutionize over a period of time agriculture, and it will change it from subsistence kind of farmer and for self-consumption or for the local economy to a more commercial farming and for a larger system. As that happens, warehousing, cold storage, distribution, logistics, all of these will acquire great amount of opportunity in that. So there are a lot of adjacencies and opportunities in this area that require to be dealt with properly.
Since we mentioned about word about mid caps and small caps, can you throw a little light about while selecting a script, should a person focus more on large caps or mid caps or small caps, or there is nothing like that?
Kulin bhai, to give a simple answer, these are indulgences of the mind or illusions of the mind. Time to time, people profess that now large caps will work, now mid caps is a fashion, now small caps will do wonderfully well. Unfortunately, these kind of illusions are supported by business television channels, unintelligent print media, also other commentators and various other interest groups who generally make random comments all the time. Unfortunately, nothing is farther away from reality. Investing is not about large cap or a mid cap or about a small cap. Investing is all about finding a good business run by a good management, which is sitting on a large size of opportunity so that it can grow at a meaningful pace over a meaningfully long period of time with a right quality of growth so that the growth converts into economic value. To judge that value, bring it upfront to judgment of the real value, buy the business at some margin of safety and then sit tight. When you do all of that, whether the underlying business is small today or a mid-size today or a large size today is irrelevant. If that exercise is right, what is large today will become much larger. What is mid will become large and some stage larger. What is small may become mid and large and larger over a period of time. But when these rules are not applied and arbitrarily by naming and tagging something as large and mid and small, when you try to buy into that, it actually was the reverse way. Enough large businesses convert into mid ones and mid to small ones and small to the vanishing companies. And therefore, unfortunately, these very poor quality ideas have circulated in the minds of people for too long. That mid cap is now fashionable and small cap is fashionable and large cap brokerages, news channels, media, other people. Unfortunately, even fund managers contribute to this kind of foolish noise. And therefore, people get carried away by this kind of trend and themes and ideas and try to do. But nothing is farther away from the truth. Investing is purely about finding on a bottom-up basis good businesses. If they are on a large size of opportunity, then even if they are not large today, or even if they are mid-size or small size, they will get larger. And critical thing in investing is to become larger than what you are, not necessarily being large or mid or small. There is no specific virtue in a small company. Equally, there is no necessary virtue in a large company today. Please remember, investing is all about future. 95% or more is about future. Whatever is, whether somebody is large is what has happened in the past and today. But very little of that will have contribution for the future. Future will, 95% and more will be determined by that. And therefore it is identifying these traits which is more critical, rather than buying large or a mid or a small as a fashion or as a trend or as an idea.
Can you tell us something other than agriculture? What other sectors government has announced which will benefit in next 2 to 3 years times?
Well, I see small and mid-scale units will benefit immensely over a period of time as we move towards away from foolish and crippled dependence on imports from outside. And rightly, for the first time, our policies are shifting towards intelligent kind of a self-dependence, not a unintelligent kind of isolationist localization. So intelligent kind of a self-reliance is absolutely necessary and essential. Otherwise, you get at initial stage, you get dependent, then you get crippled, and at third stage, you get paralyzed. And then finally, people on whom you are dependent, they treat you at mercy and kill you. And especially if dependence is on the rogue or the crooks like China, then it is even far more dangerous than ever before. Therefore, I think this whole gist about, I mean, can you think of it, importing sleepers, importing kites, importing threads to fly your kites, importing your idols for immersion during your festivals, buying your crackers from outside, buying bicycle components, buying things like toys, buckets. I mean, list is endless, and it is disgusting that this kind of things, not only we buy, but foolishly each one of us supports it, you know. I mean, we have no sense of self-pride. We have no sense of self-propriety. We have no sense of course towards the society at large. And therefore, we continue to carelessly throw away resources in supporting a poisonous snake in your own home, you know, who is coming from outside. You nurture it and letting it bite yourself by feeding it with the milk. Therefore, I think the idea about moving towards as much local and self-dependence of an intelligent variety, that in right areas where you have capability and your strength to build those capabilities and acquire a scale, the areas where you need to create technology, then you can create scale. For example, in electronics and the cellular phone related technologies, you first build that, create incentivization structure so that over a period of time, players will emerge and then giants will emerge. These will, I think, in the engineering ecosystem, because of government is one of the biggest procurers of the goods and services. And many of these goods and services are supplied by small businesses, small units, mid-sized units, who otherwise were cut out from the tendering process, complexity of working with the government and all of that. Now with 200 crore and below projects automatically cut out of all this complexity will create a huge, over a period of time, significant opportunity for capable, sensible, far-sighted and hardworking small and mid-sized units over a period of time. Not all units will do well, but the ones which are foresightful and intelligent ones and hardworking ones will have a great opportunity in many of the areas. So these units, in my opinion, are something to be watched. From a stock market perspective, opportunity is limited because these are not really part and parcel of the investing universe, but is a general thought over the economic landscape, I definitely feel that there will be a glasnost kind of changes over a decade and two.
Do you expect any change of eating behavior after COVID-19 world over?
I think humanity gets carried away too much by immediacy. Human race is designed to think technically rather than strategically. Therefore, it pays too much of cognizance to here and now and immediate rather than distant and long term. Therefore, when something disruptive like COVID suddenly occurs, it takes everyone's imagination to the sky high level. Is it this will happen? And all kinds of profound thoughts, all kinds of profound punditry gets thrown around. All kinds of wild and violent ideas also become very popular suddenly. And social media is a great medium to amplify the noise of the highest order. Therefore, people praise work from home, and commercial real estate will go away. This will become more fashionable. This will go away. These are immediate reactions, and many cases there are shallow reactions. Some amount of things will undergo change without any doubt. I don't think everything will be business as usual. I mean, whether our dirty habits of hygiene, whether our careless negligence of health practices, whether we should be proud about and whether they will remain, I hope not. I hope that it will change with this. And that will also mean, even otherwise, washing your hands before eating rather than just eating any and everything without being careful about it. It will also mean some amount of paying attention to eating at a good place or not so good place. Hopefully, this kind of things will change. Some amount of shift you can see, whether people will give a greater importance to packaged foods which is branded compared to loose unbranded product which otherwise you were easily buying all this time so far. Therefore, branding, packaging, formalization will get a push. Yes.
Now, what I wanted to ask you is that, can you expect some people from non-vegetarian to vegetarian?
I don't know about that. I don't think about it as much. I used to eat non-vegetarian food at one point of time. I've given up because my wife was terribly
No, why I'm
upset
asking?
with me.
Why I'm asking you? Hello.
Yes.
Can you hear?
Yes, I
Why
can.
I'm asking you, because if there is a small amount of shift from non-vegetarian to vegetarian, you will have a huge opportunity in some of the vegetarian food like rice. I'm asking in that sense.
Yeah, but
So you will have.
I would not encourage you into thinking that such thoughts become waves and they become a storm over a period of time or they become large enough. Many times our imagination runs wild and ahead of time, and we attribute likelihood to many of these conjectures. I think we should go about it in a carefully calibrated assessment over a period of time. Some amount of shifting towards vegetarian food, in any case, is occurring over a period of time in many parts of the world. I mean, I gave up non-vegetarian food not because of any of those reasons. I gave up for a personal reason that my wife didn't like it. And so I have not been eating non-vegetarian food for more than 20 years now. And I have no intention of eating anything in future now. But whether there'll be a swing away from non-vegetarian food to vegetarian purely based on COVID, I will hesitate to make such a conjecture or a conclusion.
I think I will ask the last question because we have taken a lot of time. So there's one question that has come from our from the audience: is what do you think about cryptocurrency and the future of cryptocurrency?
Well, cryptocurrency is, in my opinion, a discredited idea. But the blockchain technology, which is at the heart of cryptocurrency, the technology, which is blockchain technology, that is a very valuable technology. Basically, blockchain technology is public irreversible recording of a fact which cannot be altered later on or can be tempered. That whatever you have recorded into the system at a point of time simply cannot be changed, cannot be reversed, cannot be obliterated. It becomes a permanent, indelible record. And that is a great application in developing a lot of public services and public businesses where confidence is required. When you have to participate in digital technologies, essentially, say for example, in finance, digital technologies, you are operating at a distance. Something in vacuum on machine is happening and you have to trust that all that will work well. When you don't have a trust or a confidence that something can go wrong without your knowledge and something can be tempered and you can become a victim of it, your ability to conduct that will be very difficult. Then you'll prefer to pay hard cash or write a check and hand it over, but you'll not prefer to do a transaction in a remote, faceless digital way. Blockchain technology, finance is just one area, but there are many other technologies where the public trust, public confidence, the protecting the belief of the people is so vital that only blockchain technology as an idea can assure. The product out of blockchain technology, one of the products is a cryptocurrency. That, in my opinion, is a thoroughly discredited idea. It is not something which is likely to work. And all the cryptocurrency, of which Bitcoin has been a prominent one, where it may acquire a high price and then low price and volatility, all this is nothing but a volatility of the mind and non-application of the mind. So I will not ascribe any value to these anonymous operators creating currencies and exchanges on the blockchain technology. But blockchain is a technology to create offerings and services and valuable public products is a huge, huge importance.
Sir, good evening. Kulinji, Ashok here. Bharat, in line with what you spoke of digital and other things, we have one huge resource that is a human resource. What will happen to the change in the human resource now? Because currently everything is going into a digital force, and you're also saying in terms of artificial intelligence, what will happen to this human resource?
That is a more fundamental and more long-term issue, but not a new one. If you think about it, the history of human civilization is marked with a lot of marker events where this kind of dilemmas and this kind of challenges have happened. So Industrial Revolution 1, when there were huge leaps on mechanization compared to handwork and hand effort or human effort driven output and production of services. When Industrial Revolution 1 occurred, a lot of worries were there that labor will become surplus, they will become unemployable, they will become useless. Initially, a lot of that occurred too. So it is not a myth, it is a reality. But over a period of time, using those technology, using these efficiencies, we made a huge leap in the productivity of civilization, improving the overall standard of living, overall income, and overall lives of people in general. When Industrial Revolution 2 occurred, again similar challenges came to the mind with a greater level of mechanization and using non-human technologies. Today, we are at the threshold of the fourth revolution, which is in the age of information technology, which is, in my opinion, about to get over. We are in the third revolution of information technology, but already having stepped significantly into the digital technology world. Our half body is into the information age, other half is moving towards the digital age. Therefore, it is normal and natural to have these concerns. But you see, at a macro level, every such leap in improvement of technology, of methods, will result into overall gains for the humanity of productivity, improved standard of living, and improved wealth and income. At a micro level, at an individual person level, surely there can be challenges. Somebody who is not able to adjust to the new realities, somebody who is not able to adapt may become less useful or useless can occur. And therefore, there will be possible micro level tragedies, but at a macro level, system in general will gain. This has been the history of human civilization efforts all along. At every marker event, this has happened, where at a micro level there are challenges, but at a macro level, humanity in general has gained and made a leaps ahead. In my opinion, at this stage also, we are in the throes of that transition, and therefore there are bound to be concerns, bound to be worries. At individual levels, a lot of people have to worry about automation, robotics, replicable mechanical kind of work without involving great deal of contemplative thought or work of imagination, etc., which is hard to replace with machine as much. There are challenges on that. There is no getting away from that. But I remain believer that on a longer term basis, that will expand the economic output of the world. It will improve the lifestyle. It will improve the wealth. It will improve the income and standard of living of in general the world. Individual tragedies or individual challenges, unfortunately, are unavoidable.
I think with this, we should end. We have taken, Bharat Bhai, a little longer than what we talked about your time. And I must thank you. And I must tell, and I'm sure all my friends are convinced that Bharat Bhai is not only fantastic in his professional finance management, but a great human being, a great thinker, a great, intelligent human being. And I was always aware of that, but today I got a little more glimpse of that. And I cannot thank you enough, Bharat Bhai, for spending more than 2 hours this evening. And we will remember this forever, Bharat Bhai. And I thank you. I thank RC, my co-moderator, Ramesh Bhai. Thank you so much. And of course, I thank our host, Ashok and Navneet of Microvision. And I thank BOA managing team for hosting this platform. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kulin Bhai. Thank you, Bharat Bhai. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kulin Bhai, Ramesh Bhai, for all your kind words and all your engaging discussion and questioning. Delight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you can stop this.
Fantastic evening.
We will close the session, sir, and then we'll come later. Yeah, Navneet, can you just stop the things?
Yeah, I'll stop it. I stopped the live streaming.
Yeah.
And I have to stop the session, then only the broadcast will stop.
Okay, stop it. Then I will talk to sir. Yeah, please stop it. Close it.
Thank you so much, both of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good night, sir. Good night.